Hi guys, it's Andrew Zebrun III again, and I'm here with a guest, Ellen King, and we're just going to talk about the general thing of what everything's going on today. We're trying to figure out this earthly realms. Ellen, what do you think?
I think it's chaos on earth, but you know what? We got to make some sense of it. And so I guess there's some of us here that are looking into the occult areas to try to figure out what exactly is going on, how many beings are we dealing with, aliens or whatever. We're trying to sort through what's truth and what's fiction.
And it's so hard. Oh my goodness. It's so hard. YouTube has changed so much recently. When I first started doing this, it was so easy to find things, Remember back in the day, you could just find things.
Oh, listen. Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing that I've noticed that they're doing a lot. Like if you just try to look for Marcel Vogel, for example, you type in Marcel Vogel and then all these different albums will pop up because people want to try to bury the truth. They want to try to bury anything that's factual that people can sink their teeth into, to try to find some sort of tangible proof of something. This is what I've noticed about everything that has anything to do with any kind of truth or prove like probable events that have happened in the real world, and Marcel Vogel's very important. His work's very important. Jordan Maxwell's very important. Same thing with him. You go and put in Jordan Maxwell, all these bands pop up or songs or lyrics or whatever. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. We need to somehow stop this. I don't know how because it's YouTube.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Well, the thing that I try to hold on to is just keep an open mind. It's that simple. So when you come across any kind of information, no matter what it is, it may seem just far out there. You just come across it and you're like, maybe. I mean, I believe in possibilities. Let's just put that in the back seat, just throw it in the bin and ride with it. And the next time you come across some information, lo and behold, it's like, okay, now I can kind of start to cross-reference whatever it may be. Like I'll have to say, several years ago, I didn't believe in this whole reptilian agenda thing. I was like, what? I was like, no way. I mean, I must have come across it in about 2014 or 2015, David Icke and his whole theory with the reptilians. But, more and more people are coming out talking about their experiences. Even a person such as Jordan Maxwell, talks about this woman who had a reptilian experience and some friends of his that had a reptilian experience. And then even though I haven't seen them personally, I have 3 friends now that have said absolutely. 2 said that they saw hybrids with the eyes shifting, and then another one has seen the full blown, head of a person that was reptilian. And it's like, wow, where are they hiding? And I believe those goggles, we were talking about the designing goggles on Leak Project. I believe those goggles are the key. I'm telling you, that's why I'm like, this is important, people. If we can get our hands on any kind of technology that can help us in many different ways, we can start to see what's going on and get the truth ourselves. So I will be getting some of those goggles, guaranteed. That's in my future because I want to play around with them and perhaps get some of the different gels that they have that cover the lights on the movies and change the color spectrum, see what we can see. I'm ready. I'm ready for the truth. I'm sick of all this deception.
Me too. And I've had so many UFO experiences. So I came quicker to the table with the whole reptilian thing. I bought it, hook, line, and sinker right away.
Did you have some sort of experience though, or?
Oh, in 1980, I had a series of UFO experiences that were just absolutely mind blowing. And I didn't realize how special it was till I really started researching. And I didn't hear anybody that talked about seeing things that I saw, because I saw a UFO over a series of nights, not just one night. where I just saw something off in the distance. This thing was right in front of me for 5 or 6 nights in a row. And then the last night it sent these probes down into the water, like these orange balls.
Mm.
And there was little beings in there. And I didn't see them myself because the person I was with was more brave than me, and they went right up to Lake Erie. This happened at Lake Erie. And she said that there was a little creature in there and that she could see it. So what it made me think that either they're throwing their consciousness out there somehow, or they are actual little creatures and they were using some kind of plasma ships, because these balls they came out of the big UFO and they were only about 3 feet across.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And they went down into the water, and then they went everywhere they wanted, anywhere they wanted underwater, and just as fast as the air, you know?
Yeah. And then, that it just makes me wonder, like, are we dealing with, I think about this whole Norse map. I'm telling you lately that it's got me kind of captivated with the Norse mythological map and the way it says our world looks, with the different realms that are actually below us. And that could possibly be, it could possibly include our oceans and things. I have a friend who saw something exactly like what you're describing just up in Lawrenceville, Georgia. She was sitting on her back deck talking on the phone when all of a sudden she said this orange orb came from out of nowhere. It came zipping by and it stopped right behind her house and it dipped down below the tree line.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would pop back up and then it would pop back down and go back up and back down. And then finally it left, and it did like a loop when it left, and it shot off. And she said the next thing she knew, a helicopter came flying by. One of the Black Hawk helicopters came flying after it. And she said that she was like yelling at her friend because she was on the phone and she wanted to take a photo. But she said she was all excited. She called me and she was like, oh my gosh, I just saw this UFO in my backyard and it did this loop de loop and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my. And then I have another friend in Lawrenceville. She has her whole family, a family of like 4 people staying in this house. And she said one night she goes outside on her back porch and there's this huge white orb that is right behind her house over the tree line, and it's just hovering there. And then when she looked down to the left, she said there was a whole line of them. There were like 7 of them. Mm-hmm. And it was like they were in a line. And when this one just decided to go, it went and it was gone. And then the next one came and got in that spot. I mean, like a gas station or something. I don't know. It was weird. But she said that they were pulsating this white. And they were about 20 feet in diameter, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't ever see anything around here. I'm always looking up in the sky. I feel like, hey, why don't I see something?
I know. And then I started seeing them again in 2012, different types of ships. It's just a strange thing. So you've never seen any UFOs?
I did when I was down in Florida, but it was so benign and so boring. It was like, okay, what is that? And I've seen it once on a UFO show. I was living on Palm Beach, and then I moved out to Okeechobee. We were driving back out to Okeechobee on the Beeline Highway when all of a sudden, this was like daytime, maybe like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. There was this light that was in the sky. It was an orange light, looked like a flare, but it was sliding across the sky. It left one light behind it, and then the first light would disappear. This thing is like moving across, so you've got this light that's moving like this, and then it leaves a light behind it. The first one disappears. The other one is still tracking in the same direction, so it leaves a light, and then the first one disappears. It was just so like, what the heck is that? I mean, it's not a flare because it's going horizontal and it's not descending. It doesn't go up and come down, or just go up and hold there for a moment and come down. It was going horizontal, and then it had a light, and then it would leave a light and then disappear, and that one would go by, and then that one would disappear after it left one. I was like, I don't know what that is. That's just, it's so boring though. I was like, huh, you know, like we're supposed to get excited about that. I mean, it wasn't doing anything. It's just tracking really slow though.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
all I've ever
thing.
seen.
A lot of people don't know what the heck they're doing. And one guy from White House UFO, Grant Cameron, says that they're doing the, he has the theory of wow. They want to make you go wow. So maybe it was supposed to make you go wow and you didn't.
You know, these things don't impress. Lights in the sky do not impress me. All these videos of lights in the sky, I'm like, look, you know, people, we've seen this a million times. This is boring. I mean, when they come down and land in my backyard, that might be a little bit more exciting. You know, be like, oh, okay, friend or foe. You know, that's the thing. And right at this point, I don't think I could be really stirred or shaken or anything. I'm just be like, okay, we've heard about them. Now what? And I think that's the whole game, is they're going to make their presence known to more and more people because they want people to get accustomed to the idea of their presence before they do initiate contact with the regular average people, because most people will freak out. And that's why we're in this slow, painful stage of the Great Awakening. It's like, okay, people, you know, well, we're 2 years into this whole thing, you know, with the world. And you know, I'm sure you're like I am. I'm just like, can we just move on already? I mean, this is so boring too now. And there's truth there, but nobody's paying attention. So
Yeah.
that's what we got. You know, it's like, okay, we got to wait for everybody else to catch up, at least over 50%, maybe 80%. I don't know. What are we waiting for?
Yeah, there's a certain percentage that won't wake up. So
Yeah, you know, I don't get that really. I mean, even with all of the frequencies that are absolutely affecting the DNA and all the cellular structures of the people in the world, and they still won't wake up. I don't really get that. I mean, the only thing I can think is like maybe they're just too wrapped up in darkness that they can't get out of their binding, you know, forces or something. I don't know.
mm-hmm. Well, my research says we used to have two suns. Rex talks about this all the time. And we were up in upper dimensions then. So they took down one of our suns
Yeah.
and took us down into 3D. So in order to get back to where we were, somehow we got to spark up another sun.
Well, now, you know, you hear all these crazy tales where they were going to try to ignite Jupiter and do all this. I mean, really, come on. That's like peanuts. You know, you can't. So, and I had heard about Saturn being the sister sun, and now it's the black sun.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I was going with Rex's, the conversation with him. You know, this whole Saturn thing. Are we dealing with people who came from Saturn, or beings that came from Saturn, or artificial intelligence that came from Saturn that's being incorporated in our society? I want to question this because I just find it very, very odd. I mean, based on what we know about Norman Berggren's research on Saturn, the hexagon of Saturn, the ring makers of Saturn, the big ships creating the rings, the sound wave that's basically creating the North Pole hexagon, the eerie sound that Saturn's emitting, because that is really creepy. Then divining inside my own conscience about the truth of why so much Saturn worship on this planet. Why are they pulling in that Saturnian energy? And then I get the answer right away. Like, it's because of the control that Saturn is under. They want that control here. They are trying to dominate our world with artificial intelligence, just like what's happened on Saturn. And it is like the Matrix in Saturn. So, you know, I had divined for that, and I was like, that just makes too much sense. You know, where did all this artificial intelligence come from all of a sudden, just from out of nowhere practically? And then all of this worship of this heavenly body. But then when I had a client under hypnosis and I had them remote view Saturn, what they said just resonated the same thing that I had just divined in my own self. And that was that when they looked at Saturn, they said that they sensed a hive mind there, a hive mind with a shielding that does not allow them to see the surface. And I was like, what? I'm like, this makes too much sense. So are we dealing with entities from another sphere, basically? Because I'm starting to get the sense that each planet that we know of, a planet, is a biosphere. And it may not be absolutely spherical or round in nature, but it harbors life. And that was something, it was interesting because I was watching Billy Carson's channel where he was talking about Venus and some of the NASA photos from Venus that he was looking at very closely. And he said, look, there's trees on Venus, and there's also these big towers coming through the treetops. You can see it. It reminded me of like the world of the elves in Lord of the Rings, honestly. So yeah, you got to look that episode up of Billy Carson's stuff information, because I've been following him for a while, and some of these other people, Matt LaCroix, and I listen to people who have something to say that's beneficial for the collective consciousness, because there's so much stuff that's just out there, that's just nonsense. But I want to hear what other people are truly discovering in their journey. And when someone can speak with intellect, that's what interests me the most. And the longest videos are the ones that I'm interested in, because usually if they're 10 minutes long, they're usually not worth listening to. But I mean, some of them are. I don't know if are you familiar with the Secret Key Activator?
No.
That channel? That was actually really good information when, I was listening to all these different things when I was working on the movies. It was leading up to all of what's happening in the world today. And I found it very interesting that this intellectual person who put out these videos spoke about how Putin was a traitor of the New World Order. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. We'll have to see about that. Because I don't trust any of them. I'll be honest. I don't trust any of them. Not from what I have gathered on the internet. And last year, I know I segue into many different subjects, but last year I saw where Putin, it was either last year or 2020, Putin wrote into law something to the effect of that any politician cannot be held accountable for past crimes, basically. And I was like, oh, I wonder what he's liable for, human trafficking. I mean, I don't know, but that, there's just so much. And like I say, I just take things in, I don't discount them, but I just put them in the back of my mind so that when I come across something else, I can go, oh, okay, here's some more information about this subject. And I just wish that we had a whole existence full of people who would just do that instead of scoffing or saying, oh, that's just junk, or that's crap, or that's, instead of being so negative, just hold the information. You don't have to do anything with it. It's just in your conscience, and it's a library, hey, let's just catalog that for later. That's kind of what I do. So I've got another channel that's all I did was just save videos, save. So I have all these different folders on all these different subjects. I mean, I can literally talk about just about anything, honestly. Mm-hmm. Black goo and, argon energy and the magnetic water experiments. And it's fascinating though. I mean, there's so many mysteries to be discovered.
There are. I went to an estate sale a few years ago with my son, and he found this photograph of a very famous building in Buffalo, but it's torn down now. And the photograph, we bought it was only $1. And it was a hell of a deal because it was a building designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And it was his first office building for the Larkin Soap Company. And the thing that makes it strange is in every photo of that building, it's got a series of telephone poles sitting there because Tesla had just electrified the country at that time, and Buffalo was the first city to get electricity. So in our photo, there's no telephone poles. And I
Mhm.
went to write a story about this and I submitted it to Buffalo Rising, a place that publishes some of my articles, because I like to get my name out there for normal people to read, so they'll go find some of my other stuff. Well, anyways, he says, wait a minute, this is photoshopped, he says. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's 100-year-old photo. If it's photoshopped, they did it with an airbrush, right? And it
Mhm.
turns out he was right. It was photoshopped with an airbrush 100 years ago. Now, the only reason someone would do that was because Frank Lloyd Wright hated wires. Now, why would he hate wires? Maybe because he knew what Tesla was up to.
Hmm.
I think it's a
Yeah.
very interesting story.
You know, we have so much deception. And how did they create the great flood that happened only 200 years ago? How is it that it came about that there's all this mud absolutely everywhere, and you can see the evidence of it in any small town across the United States or anywhere in the world? Pretty much when the windows are at ground level, the rest of the building is under the ground. It's been buried in mud 10 to 15 feet. So what are we dealing with? How did they do this? Now, the woman that I interviewed, Michelle Gibson, she said that she thought that it was quite possibly time travel.
Mm.
And that, and I don't know what her correlation was, like what her evidence was that she found regarding the Philadelphia experiment. And, she said that there was a time in Ireland where Ireland was in a frost for like a year or two, something like that. It was in the more recent past history, like the 1800s or so. And she thinks that it has ties to the Philadelphia experiment. And I don't know how she came to that conclusion. It would be interesting to find out. But yeah, there's great mysteries that are happening all around us. And obviously, these people who have this technology, they they've been using it, like the Project Looking Glass, Project Pegasus, Project Looking Glass. They've been looking at this stuff. They've been able to read the future and read the past with this technology, and it involves crystal technology. And that's something that we need to pick up the torch where Marcel Vogel left it, because apparently there's nobody else out there that's in our camp who is researching this crystal technology anymore. I don't know of anybody. I've been asking around, different circles, and that's why, it's good to get this information out to let people know that I especially am seeking the people who are looking at the crystal technology, because I believe that is a very important feature for our future.
Can you go into that a little? Because I've never heard the name Marcel Vogel before. You're the first person to mention him.
Marcel Vogel worked for IBM for 27 years, and he was the pioneer scientist for IBM. He was the one who was paid to research crystal technology and what crystals can do. And so he learned a lot. But his background was such that before he worked with crystals, he was working with the consciousness of plants. And he helped put out the documentary, The Secret Life of Plants, and also the book. He's mentioned in the book. I bought the book after watching the documentary again, because you can find the documentary on YouTube. But before that, he was working with phosphorus and phosphorescent creatures like the lightning bugs and stuff. He was always interested in that. So he actually, in his teens, he started working with the phosphorus stuff, phosphorescent plants and whatever. And then he got into the plant consciousness and awareness, and then he got into the crystals. So when he first started out working with the crystals, he was wanting to know how to even study this item. So he said that he went into meditation, because apparently he spent some years in India, or some time in India, where he practiced Kundalini yoga and transcendental meditation. So he was able to merge science and spirituality.
Wow.
and use that as a practice, to get some of his, I guess, answers to the questions he had. So when he asked during meditation how he should study these crystals, he got the answer: study water. So he began studying water, just like Dr. Masaru Emoto did, except he didn't freeze the water. He just started playing around with different water elements and things. And he said it was very interesting. One day, someone showed up at his door with an instrument, the Omega 1, I believe, when it first happened. He ended up having Omega 5 in the long run, that could actually read the energy output from a crystal. He said this person just showed up one day, knocked on his door. He's like, I think you need this, which means that there's someone watching. There is a master conscience that is watching everything, and they are, I guess, the watchers, and they watch the spiritual evolution of man and all of the things that are on this existence. So they had, I guess, divinely gotten in touch with this person. He invented this thing, took it to Marcel's house, dropped it off, and then like a month later, he was getting a bill in the mail for it. So he's got a wonderful story about that. I mean, you have to listen to some of his videos on YouTube. If you type in Marcel Vogel crystals, you will be able to find his videos more accurately, because if you just put Marcel Vogel, you're going to get a whole lot of album covers and songs and all this stuff called Marcel Vogel, because they don't want people finding all this information. It's important information because it's stuff that we can actually do now. We can use technology of the crystals to heal ourselves and others, and to amplify our consciousness, to do all these things. So Marcel discovered that by cutting a crystal, a natural quartz crystal, and maintaining the C-axis, which is the central axis that goes straight up to the tip, if you can maintain that central axis, then you maintain the integrity of the crystal and the energy that it can hold and the memory that it can hold. So he cut them to a specific shape, which is in the tree of life pattern. And in doing so, this basically creates a scalar wave. The tree of life is almost conical in shape. I'm sure you've seen it in Kabbalah and things. So the shorter end of the tree of life would be the end that goes in the palm of your hand. And the longer, narrower end is the male end, which is the positive end, and it goes outward like a wand. Well, when you're holding this thing in your hand, not only do you discharge it of its memory, but you charge it with love. And there's a process on my YouTube channel where I show people this, because this is based on Marcel Vogel's teachings. This is not my stuff, but it's knowledge that needs to be out there in the public. And so this scalar form it acts as a wand with your intentions involved. So what you put into the crystal is what you get out. And I tell people this comes with a warning, because if you're working with negative frequencies and negative forces and things, you're absolutely going to get backlashed with that. If you are sending out love into cosmic divine energy, and trying to help things, that's what you're going to manifest in your life. So when I realized the power of this knowledge, and I said, you know what, this needs to come with a warning label. So I started putting all my videos with a warning label that you have been warned about the natural laws of cause and effect, because absolutely they are in play all the time. Anyway, so Marcel claims, I haven't seen it yet. I don't have a Vogel crystal, but I intend to have one specially made by the only person that's left that I know of who is cutting these crystals to Marcel's specifications, which is very important. There's a lot of fakes online. You want to be careful where you buy your crystals from. So, because if they don't have the C-axis, it will absolutely not work, and the integrity that they use, they cut them with love. They play classical music and they put loving intentions in when they're cutting the crystal. But this guy, Drew Tousley, who owns Luminary Studios, is the only one left that is actually manufacturing the crystals, and he will cut them, customized to your specifications. And on his website, he actually says that, there's a certain list of people who are allowed to sell them. And those websites and places are listed on his site. So those are the authentic ones. Now, this crystal can obviously, if you are in a higher consciousness mind, you can levitate objects with these things. Marcel talks about this in one of his videos, and there's hundreds of hours of videos of Marcel's work online. But he talked about how he was in a conference and he got attacked psychically by some witches. They were trying to get him to come to some event that, they were harassing him mostly, and they wouldn't stop. And he was like, no, I don't have time. He's like, please leave me alone, blah, 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 blah. And they triangulated him in the room. And when he was giving his speech, all of a sudden, it was like the wind was knocked out of him. And he had to excuse himself. And two healers happened to notice his distress, and they followed him out. So one got on each side, because he said, I think I've been psychically attacked, because he could barely breathe. They each grabbed one arm and they started alternate breathing. One would breathe in while the other one's breathing out, and they would breathe with him, helping him regain his breath. Well, then he said that he put all of his rage and anger into that crystal. And because he knew that he had been attacked. So he went in there and he scanned with the crystal to find who was responsible. And he said at that moment, he aimed the crystal at that person that was sitting in the chair. The chair levitated 5 feet up off the ground and then collapsed to the floor. But after he did it, he was so horrified. He's like, I can't let this fall into the wrong hands. And he said he took the crystal and recut it to a different specification. And he said he never cut a crystal like that ever again, because it would fall into the wrong hands. And that's why, even speaking about this, it's like we have to be careful on some level with this kind of knowledge. There's a lot of people that'll just, run through this and go, oh, that's hocus pocus, that's bunk, and won't believe it. But there are absolutely people in the world who find this knowledge and they will be like, I'm going to do something with this, and I'm going to, go dominate the world or whatever. But again, cause and effect, you put that out there, you're going to get it back. It's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. So that I wouldn't mind attempting levitating things, even small objects, just for my own discovery. I am not out here trying to impress anybody. I haven't bought one of those crystals yet. I do believe that it has to be a specific shape with specific sides, because Marcel says that the more sides it has, the faster the spin rate of the energy that's flowing through it. Now, one thing that I found interesting, because I don't know if you know about Coral Castle and the man who levitated the stones. There were some children. I listened to a lot of different hours of videos on that subject, and there were some children that witnessed what the man was doing. They said he had ice cream cones, and he was moving them with ice cream cones. But the children didn't really know the ice cream cone shape is a scalar wave, and so is Marcel Vogel's crystal that he makes. So our thought forms are scalar waves, which means we can amplify this with the piezoelectricity from a crystal. Now, I've talked to many other people, in the metaphysical world. They're like, oh, but we can already do these things with our mind. I'm like, yes, we can, but the crystal just amplifies it. You give it a squeeze, it's going to amplify whatever charge you're emitting, because that's what it does for our computers and our technology. It's amplifying the electricity. and allowing things to, manifest through electricity. So it's fascinating. All this stuff out here in the world is fascinating. And I am after that profound knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you should look up those crystals because they're really beautiful. And they sell them with different facets. And you can heal people. That's what Marcel was really focused on, was the benefits of what we can actually do when we put our minds to it, because that's all it really is. The mind is the true machine. It's the crystal that's just a tool, just like a shovel is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And our mind is the one that's like working the tool.
Yeah, that's why he had those pine cone or those ice cream cones. Those were probably his concentration point, where he was probably using his own mental power, don't you think?
Yes, I mean, I believe, because the monks have proven this stuff. Tibetan monks and other monks around the world have proven that you can absolutely control matter with the use of your mind. You have the monks who go out in the winter, dead of winter, in the deepest, coldest climates, out there meditating with only a robe on, just to prove that, it's the mind that can absolutely control all of this, the thermal temperature of the body, all of these things. And why don't we believe it? It's because we've lived in a Mickey Mouse Hollywood world over here in the United States. And we don't believe all these things are possible because we've never seen it and experienced it for ourselves. But I mean, just simple little things like, somebody calling you or about to text you, and all of a sudden your phone goes off after you've had the thought in your head, oh, I'm thinking about so-and-so, and boom, there's the phone. I was like, okay, that's a little bit of proof,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not tuned in. We're not tapped in. We are totally disconnected. Let's look at the great disconnect, because that's pretty important. So we know that we're being poisoned in the food and poisoned in the water and poisoned in the air. Let's look at our clothes. Our shoes are a big rubber buffer on the bottom to disconnect us from the electrical frequency of the earth. We wear many different types of clothing, mostly unnatural, synthetic fibers, and all of these things that absolutely stop our frequencies from going out into the cosmos to create our reality. And then the colors that we wear are all over the map. We should not be wearing all these colors, and black and red and green and brown. We shouldn't wear them because they're giving off a frequency. What kind of frequencies are we emitting? It's all chaos. It is chaotic. And so when we're not eating plants, which plants are, they're psychic beings.
Yes, they are.
When you eat more live plants, you become more psychic. That's just the nature of things. You are what you eat, but people don't think about these absolute laws,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just that person. Like, I connect many dots and go over many, many different details in our lives. And I see things. And I think it's because the artist mind, having the mind for details and looking at things with a little bit closer perspective and really analyzing the details. That's what's gotten me out here in the world looking at everything with a microscope and a magnifying glass. I'm like, what is this? I want to know more about this. And absolutely, I am seeking the powers of the mind. I want to know what my innate abilities are.
Yep.
So,
I think we're just creator beings, and we're a little stifled right now because our creativity is being held down.
yes, I mean, that's just it. If we could get people to relax their consciousness into the fact of, let down your guard, become your authentic self, get rid of these shells, these layers of protection that you've put around yourself, this ego that is absolutely huge, in the United States. There's nothing but egos here. It's superficial, it's narcissistic, it's materialistic, it's all these things. We're the new Babylon. But, I had to recognize this even in myself. In my own journey, I've seen every aspect of everything out here in the world. And I've had to come back to center. And I've found myself again and grounded myself in the earth and looking at everything for what it truly is. Removing the masks is the ultimate goal. And out here in the world, if we can get people to stop looking at all the problems outside of themselves and see all the problems inside, then we can fix things. Because I can't fix you or anybody else, but I can fix me. And if I fix me, that means someone else might be inspired enough to start looking inward and say, well, I want to be more like them. How can I do that? Well, do your introspection, do your inner work, do dark night of the soul, go through the dark night of the soul, come out the other end, emerge triumphant, stand back in your countenance, know that you are who you are and own it. Don't be afraid of who you are. Don't be afraid of your looks. All this fake everything. I mean, people hide behind masks, literally, with the makeup and, the nails. And yeah, I mean, it's okay to play dress up every now and then. I wear makeup sometimes, but not to the point where I got to hide my skin tone and put on fake lashes. I'm like, I am who I am. And if people don't like it, great. If they like it, great. It's not going to knock me off of my pedestal anymore. Because I think people just have a lot of fear. They're scared of themselves and each other. And so they want to go on the attack, they go on the defense. I've seen some of the comments in my in my channel, people just make like little snide remarks where I'm like, wow, you just don't know. Or even on Rex's channel about our video, I'm like, well, you just don't know yourself. That's all. You don't accept yourself for who you are, really.
And I went through all that.
Problems are out there.
I went through all that.
Yeah, and all of that stuff. I mean, it's not fun, but at the same time, it's like it is necessary. It is necessary to lose yourself in some regard so that you can be reborn and reemerge as the pure self. That is what is at its core. And if you can remove the false layers of what you've, brought about and put up these walls, because we put up walls when we experience any kind of trauma or pain or some sort of suffering from others, we tend to put up bricks, in the place, in that position, and separate ourselves from some aspect. We don't want to be vulnerable. And it's all inner work. And if we can just encourage people just to work on yourself, look at what you're blocking in your own life. What are you creating? Because if you're suffering in some way on a daily basis, it's all self-inflicted, mostly because of your perspective, possibly of how you're viewing things. I have some clients that have this kind of issue where it's like, oh, but they did this to me a long time ago. And I'm like, look, you've got to let go. You've got to be the one to let go of that pain. Because if you're holding on to it, you're not going to be able to heal yourself, because they're not affected. These other people are not affected by what you're feeling. You may be hurting on the inside, but that's not hurting them. You're only causing yourself pain. It's self-inflicted. How can we help them? I mean, you just show them the mirror, like, hey, what are you doing? Here's the mirror. Just look in here. If you want to feel good, then let yourself feel good. Put away the pain, put away the sorrow, and whatever guilt or tragic events. They say, forgive people for their trespasses.
Yes.
And if we can do that, then we're not harboring that in ourselves. Because, Dr. Masaru Emoto and Marcel Vogel both say, and even Dolores Cannon, we're storing all of that emotion in ourselves. We're causing our cancer. We're causing our afflictions and pain and suffering and all these things from our emotions. It's water. It's holding the memory.
Exactly. I discovered a whole lot of peace of mind when I learned to really love myself and stop seeking things outside of myself. And I found everything inside. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what the church doesn't want people to find, at least the way it was established. The Vatican did a very good job, mesmerizing people. People think that, oh, Christianity is just Christianity. No, it came from the Vatican. The Vatican created the three major religions that we adhere to in major parts of the world. It's the Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, and they all stemmed from the Vatican. This is all not Marcel, it's Jordan Maxwell's work. I'm on his investigators thing, his research society. I'm a member. It's $30 for a lifetime membership. I'm like, who wouldn't? And so you can go there and you can look at all of the documented evidence that he's found. And I give credit to him all the time because he has been one of my greatest teachers on YouTube, YouTube school.
And
I
he had
think
to
he's
face
one of
him
the
out
most
in that.
profound people.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Well, he had to face them out in LA of all places.
Yeah. I mean, he's an extraordinary person, but it's all divine timing, all of it is. Like, even when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I didn't know nothing. I had a moment where there was like this epiphany that came to me. And I had this moment where I felt like I was going to be a part of some big event that was on the horizon of my life. It wasn't any time near then, but I just had this moment where I was like, there's going to be some big event that happens I'm going to be a part of. And here we are. I'm like, that was the weirdest kind of deja vu kind of thing that just stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, huh. And I just went about my ignorant day, I was like, well, I'm just a teenager, whatever. I didn't care. But there's something guiding us, whether, I guess it's our higher self. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, when I tap in, when I really tune and tap in, when I have a really deep-seated question, I turn on the meditation station on Pandora and I just sit and I'm like, I have this question. What do I need to know? And the answer, I just allow this process to happen. I don't try to control it in any way. And I will get the answer. So I've been practicing this since 2020 because it made it easier after I was taking the hypnosis class of Dolores Cannon, the quantum healing hypnosis class. After I took the class and I had done some sessions on people and then had some sessions done to myself from other practitioners, I kind of, a switch turned on for me because I was like, okay, this is how it works. And you're really just in a guided meditation when you're doing any kind of hypnosis. So you just allow your thoughts to wander. And as long as you can allow that process to happen, you will have a great session. But when you're sitting there trying to analyze it and think about what the practitioners are doing, you're not allowing the information to just flow. And so I basically channel information. That whole term channel, I'm like, I can't follow a lot of that stuff on YouTube. I can follow what comes from within, but I know there's a lot of fakes out on YouTube trying to deceive people. And I can't follow that kind of stuff. When people are saying, oh yeah, pay for my channel session for your information. I'm like, no, people shouldn't even try that. They should divine for their own answers because we all have the ability, but people just don't believe it and they don't know how to tap into it. But if people would learn how to do hypnosis on themselves and to just use the higher frequency music with no words, because most of the meditation radio has no words, it will automatically connect you to something higher and just a higher essence of yourself. You can get some profound information. I mean, I have channeled information and when I do it in automatic writing. And I can't keep up with the thoughts that start coming down. It pours down like rain. And my hand is trying to write as much as possible, as fast as possible. But like the first time I tried it, I put it away. I didn't even want to know what it said. I wanted to do automatic drawing. You know, I wanted to draw some images or something. I was like, give me something. I just want to draw something. I want to try this. So I sat and was listening to the meditation station, and I started getting a sense of drawing kind of intertwined ribbons. And it was similar to the Cancer ribbon, but it was kind of upside down, and it was two ribbons, but it came with different messages. It was like, you know, not binding, but combining spirit within. And, you know, it was just interesting. So then the words started flowing. And I was just like, I was even telling my own mind, I was like, wait, I was talking out loud to my own mind. I'm going, wait, it's just too fast. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta catch up. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, where is this coming from? So I closed the sketch pad and I put it away. I was like, I don't want to even look at this. I don't even know what it says, you know, because I couldn't think about it. I was just allowing. A week and a half later, I get it out on a Wednesday because I was like, you know what? I think I need to see what that says. I get it. I got it out, and OMG, it brought me to tears. I was just like, because it was so powerful. The words that came were so overwhelmingly powerful and pure love. Like it was just, it was like the purest essence of love from a higher consciousness. And I'm starting to wonder if it's like my higher self, because it feels like a matriarchal energy. Every time I do it, it's like a matriarch. That's a wise old soul that is just like, you know, this is the process of all humanity kind of thing. Like, to know thyself is the most important thing. And I mean, I could read that whole thing to you. I mean, it is very, very powerful. I have it on my phone. I carry it around with me so I can share it with people.
Yeah.
I had to share it with my friends, but I would get it out and read it and just boohoo. I was crying for 3 weeks, I swear. Because every time I'd get it out, I just like, it would just arrow in the heart. I'm like, oh, this is, I mean, it's like messages like, show love where love does not grow, and things. And that was like at the end of it, but I mean, it was just crazy. I'll pull it up on my phone. I'll read it. I don't cry anymore because I'm kind of like desensitized to it now. I've read it so much, but it was just profound.
Yeah, go ahead and read it. That would be beautiful.
And I mean, let me find it because it's my I'll find it in just a second. Let's see. Oh,
I had an experience once where I was in the depths of despair over something I couldn't change. And I woke up in the middle of the night and started writing about love. And I have no idea where that came from.
your
But
higher
it made
self.
me feel better over the whole situation, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I've got other stuff. I've got other channeled messages in here, but okay, so this is Ellen King's channeled message through automatic writing, August the 1st, 2020. Innate forms of consciousness hereby claimed to be free from processes unknown, but derived from prosperity and abundance of love, honor, joy, reciprocal to each party whom participates in each activity. Know this, for this is what you seek daily as a practice. Make it so. This is your journey to comprehend your divine self, to acknowledge all that you are, a being of light cast forth into the void of darkness, in order to create new worlds of consciousness divinely connected to the source of all that is for eternity. You must know your darkness to understand your light. Circumstances are not always your own. Others must learn as well. Cohesion at best is understood by practicing the forces of light. Integrate these words into your being and transmute energy frequencies into light. Find the way. Know thyself and transfer consciousness of light unto others. It transcends all matter of form. Words are consciousness transmuted into sound waves. One of the most powerful manifestations a being can have. Use them wisely. This is the time to transcend all things of a lower consciousness and to ascend to the realms of mastery of mind, body, spirit, combined in one unit. Earth is a plane of lower vibratory frequencies and has been for a very long time. In order for her to transcend, all must transcend with her. She is waiting for her children to see. And there was like this other message, personal message. It was like, you are doing well on your journey, but as all things, there's always more work to be done. In realms of consciousness, there are needs to be satisfied and always more than one party involved. You will know this as you learn and grow through your experiences through life. To transcend to higher realms, find the balance, order from chaos, all aspects of selfhood, emotional states of conscious awareness, self-control, comprehension, silence, reflection, observation. Eliminate desires, wants. Seek solace in solitude, no fears, no judgments, just peace, reverence, and joy, one with the all, the source, the light. Love those who cannot love for themselves. Show love where love does not grow. Be the light. In these words are mastery of wisdom of self. Know thyself. I was just like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I was so verklempt. I mean, it still kind of chokes me a little bit,
It's choking me up.
What?
It's choking me up. I love it.
I mean, beautiful. It is crazy. So on August the 5th, a few days later, I wanted to just channel another message. And I got this message from a different kind of energy. It was interesting because it felt different. It felt like either Hispanic or an Asian type of energy. It was, I don't know why, and a younger female. I don't know where this stuff comes from. I've just been able to like discern these different energies. So this is forever an onion, growing, expanding, creating layers over the old self. The world is changing, growing, in constant motion. It's ascending in a new divine order. Trouble spots, but things will align quite nicely. Your gift into the world is your consciousness and willingness to share your perspective. Encourage others to do so as well. All things must come to pass. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're tired, get some rest. Because I was just exhausted. I mean, just the world, the weight of the world. These are the things that people can do on their own. Like, I don't do this for other people. I don't, make this public knowledge and all that most of the time. But some of these messages are so profound. But all people have to do is connect to their divinity. And that's what's waiting for them.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
I mean, it is like nothing I've ever experienced. But I believe that our higher selves are waiting for us to open the door. And the meditation now that came out of one of my hypnosis sessions, that when people are affected by astral entities or anything that's bothering them, if they just go instantly into a meditative state, it connects them instantly with their divine self. And the astral entities cannot go there. Once they're connected, it's like everything shuts off on this other plane, this 3D plane, and you're instantly in with that alignment. So, that was also something profound that came through during a client session. These QHHT sessions are just amazing.
They are.
Have you had it done? Have you tried
No,
at
but
all?
After I had my series of UFO sightings in 1980, the friend that I had them with all of a sudden came up with a book on hypnosis. And then she's like, well, let's go doing these past life regressions. And I'm like, okay. and we both did it, and it was absolutely amazing, but it's like there was no rhyme or reason. It's like, why did we do this? I mean, we were both very young. I was like 20 or 19, and we weren't even boyfriend or girlfriend or anything. We were just friends.
Yeah.
We weren't involved in any way. I think that's what made it happen, though. because we didn't have an involvement,
Mhm.
we were getting involved in these other strange things, not each other. It's weird. But we did have a past life regression after we saw the UFOs. And now she won't even talk about it. So
Oh, that's weird. Why won't she talk about it?
I don't know. She lives down in Florida. I told her, I'm starting to talk about this now. It'd be nice if you would talk about it with me so I don't look so crazy. She won't.
Well,
And
that's
she's the one
weird.
that saw the alien.
Huh. Fear stops creation. I tell this to people all the time. I'm like, fear stops creation. And we need to convince people to come out of their fear and step out in the spotlight, because people need to hear them. I talk to people, I tell them about my own doctor that I go to sometimes. He told me his story, about the whole UFO experience. I'm like, what? Here I am just talking about pyramids and pyramid technology with the Russians, and he's just regarding me, listening to my stuff, and he just slowly closes the door and proceeds to tell me his experience. I'm like, I'm like, the people just open up to me because I am that. I just put stuff out there. I'm fearless. I don't care who I'm telling, whatever story. I'm like, oh, you either want to know it or you don't. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care what people think. Let them think whatever they want. I just know what I've found. I'm like, I've found a lot of this stuff, this woo-woo stuff, to be true. So I've had my own very strange experiences with energy mostly, but I can't explain this stuff. But some of these other aspects that I'm finding, it does explain it. Being attacked by astral entities in your sleep, and waking up with resonant energy, and I can't explain some of this stuff. I really can't. But that's why I'm seeking, like, what are my abilities? I want to know my innate abilities. Can I activate this stuff at will? Because just thinking about it and trying to, manifest it, it doesn't work. So what am I missing? It's like there's a switch that needs to switch on so that I can access the same types of frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
My father was in a car accident in 2008. And I lived in Florida at the time. But I happened to be down in Wellington, Florida at a cafe having dinner with my husband at the time. So my father's in this car accident. I had no idea, it's about 6:30 or 7 in the evening. And I'm sitting there in conversation. All of a sudden, this energy, like this resonant frequency or whatever it was like an earthquake inside every cell of my body that was shaking and rattling like a miniature earthquake. And I had to stop because I was looking at myself. I'm like, I feel this vibration, this frequency, but I wasn't physically moving. So I couldn't explain it. I'm going, what is that? I stopped the conversation. I'm looking around trying to find something that might be causing this inside my body. And I'm like, what is that? And I asked my husband at the time, I said, do you feel that? He was like, no. I was like, I don't know what that is. It's so weird. It lasted for a few seconds and stopped. And I was like, okay, that was weird. I don't know what that was. So I continued the conversation. About 10 minutes later, it happened again, about half the intensity. And I was like, okay, something is trying to raise my awareness of something. I don't even know what this is. And I'm looking all around. Then all of a sudden, the phone rings. It's the phone call. Your dad's been in an accident. He's in a coma. You need to get to Georgia. I was like, okay. Then what comes to mind is that whole spooky action at a distance thing, where the petri dish of cells, you got two different petri dishes from the cells of one person. One's in one room, one's in another. And the scientists are experimenting with one petri dish, and the other petri dish is affected. So they called it spooky action at a distance, or spooky 2, which is the Rife machine that I have. Well, I was like, you know what? Maybe because I have the DNA of my father, maybe that's what that was that I was picking up on. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any other thing to compare it to. I've never heard of anybody else having this experience. So It's just another thing for the book of
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
My theory is it involves water, and since we're mostly water, somehow you receive the signal through the water in your body. That's my theory on how spooky action at a distance works.
Well, I mean, it could be, but because I have the same cellular DNA, the structure, I figured maybe it has something to do with that. And I do, it's the same cells, yes, but it holds the DNA and all that. I don't know. I don't know of anybody that's ever had that experience. No, we need to get people to talk about their strange experiences. And so that's why I'm out here on a limb just going, hey, I've had some weird stuff happen. What about you guys?
Yeah.
I've had some weird stuff. I want to know all the weirdest stuff in the world. I really do. I'm like, bring me the weirdest tales of, that can even be proven. Because I would love to go out here and be an investigator just looking at some weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I have always been interested in occult stuff ever since I was a kid, and those UFO movies and shows and stuff came on, and the unsolved mysteries and all that junk. But I don't know. I guess I was born for this age. That's why I called my channel The Era of My Ways, because I'm Aquarius and we're going into the age of Aquarius. I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things I woke up was with water in 2017. I got sort of a download. I said to myself, wow, water is really important because you can live for 3 weeks without food, but in a few days with no water, you're a goner, right?
Yeah.
So there's something with the water.
Oh, yeah. Well, apparently, though, with the breatharians, now I've heard, who was it that I was listening to recently? I don't know if it was Jordan Maxwell. It was someone of intelligence, from YouTube. They were talking about the yogis that only breathe prana as their means of food and energy. And the only thing about that is because they're only breathing prana, it actually weakens them. And if you were to emit a shrill sound or something that's very piercing, a piercing noise, you can absolutely kill these people. And I was like, well, I didn't really think of it that way. But because they've been practicing becoming a more enlightened being in the sense of their physical form. Because when you take in only prana, you're becoming more light in your physical body. And I guess certain frequencies can absolutely just cut through the form like paper,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I guess it makes sense because you're not taking in the 3D physical anymore. You're becoming more ethereal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like blowing a dandelion or something. They just
Yeah, I heard about people like that through studying water from Andrew Norton Weber with 2 B's. Have you ever heard of him?
Andrew Weber. Weber sounds familiar. I'm not sure if it's the same one though.
It's 2 B's. He talks about water. It's extremely interesting stuff. I was actually raw vegan for over 3 years until this thing happened with us where we couldn't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
It was great.
Is he the one? I know there's somebody out there that talks about the honeycomb formation of a bee's outer shell or something helps them actually levitate.
Yeah, he does talk about that. And he also talks about distilled water. So I drink nothing but distilled water. And I was able to go from wearing driving glasses to where I couldn't see with the glasses anymore. I had to take them off and drive without them. So it actually improved my eyesight.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I think the whole eyesight thing too, not only is it muscular, but the overgrowth of candida in the body will absolutely start to chew away at every aspect of yourself. It is the aspect of the human body that it consumes us when we die. I've been researching a lot of different things about health because of I got adult onset asthma when I moved to Florida, and I was living in a house that was infested with mold, because most of the buildings in Florida, well, I'd say probably 100% of them are infested with mold, and it lives just on the backside of the drywall. If you were to remove a piece of drywall and look at it, you'd be like disgusted because of all of the different types of mold. So I've been trying to figure out how to cure my asthma because I know that it's possible. I know two people that did, and in two different ways. But for myself, I haven't been able to focus on taking an overdose of omega-3s, for example, like just constantly taking in omega-3s for 2 years or whatever that one guy did, one of my friends, and then another guy took lobelia, like it's a plant, it's a flower, but it's some sort of extraction that he took whenever he would have an asthma attack. That hasn't worked for me. I got some lobelia, and whenever I would have an asthma attack, it does not work. I'm like, I don't know, mine's different. I think mine's energetic somehow. I talked about this a little bit on Rex's show about one of my past lives where I drowned. Basically, I jumped from a cliff and I drowned. And I believe that has something to do with my asthma today, of why it's affecting my lungs. There's something energetically, I think part of it too was at that time that I developed asthma, I felt like I was drowning in my marriage because my husband wasn't very loving. He just wasn't, a good person at the time. So the time I did feel like I was drowning my marriage, I was like, well, there's a correlation there. And, but I have given that forgiveness, because they say you have to go through all of your junk and clear everything and give gratitude for all of the lessons, because all of life is one big school. And if you can stop and just give love and gratitude for every experience, then that will allow things, the energies to flow and the karma to be undone and all of these other things. So there's that. And I'm like, okay, well, if I got to go through every little instance in my entire life to try to figure out which one is causing me grief in this moment, I don't know. And it's weird. It'll be triggered by food. And sometimes it's triggered by physical activity, but not all the time. So I'm like, okay, this is the weirdest thing. And sometimes it'll be triggered at night. So it's something with the subconscious mind that's making it happen. Even though, consciously the things don't drum up, maybe I need to find someone else that can remove it or help me remove it, because it's just weird. I'm like, it makes no sense sometimes why it comes and goes.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that helps with lung issues is pineapple. So I used to get my pineapple from my food, but now I get dried pineapple, and I take a teaspoon of that every day. That might be able to help you if you have a lung issue.
Yeah, that's the bromelain. The bromelain in the pineapples is yeah, that I've read about this, and I've been down every article, I think, and every food. I'm like, what about this? And what about that? I think there's no stone unturned just about in my world. There's some things. I mean, I love discovering new things, and that's why it's good to talk to different people, because I'm like, what do you know about something? What you know, something cool, some weird stuff that's cool. And that just goes right into the banks. It's like a magnet. When people tell me stuff like the woman in my town who had the cage under her house and the ghost and all this stuff, I'm like, I want to know more. I want to come to your house. I want to see this ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just go see what's going on around here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, discovery. I am like the adventurer. I am the modern Indiana Jones type person who's like, let's just go discover all kinds of things. That's the treasures of the earth to me. I'm like, the weirdest tales and the weirdest places, I don't know, like the silence, the zone of silence in Mexico, I'm always looking at that. And of course, have you listened to any of the Missing 411
Yes.
episodes?
Yes.
That's kind of interesting too, because, what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with just one type of entity? I don't think so. I think it's different ones.
Yeah.
And I think somehow they've got maybe interdimensional portals, or I've heard tales where there's, I don't like different stories that I've come across. I can't even like pinpoint any particular one, but for example, there will be like a cave opening that's there one day, and then the next day it's not there, and there's like just trees or something. So I believe they're using some technology to hide entrances to places. And it could be, based on like mind, like some sort of consciousness that's creating it, or technology, because we know that the holograms are absolutely real. And I don't know. I just wish we could find more people with more information that can actually prove things and say, hey, look, this is my experience. This really happened, and have some photos or something. Because there's got to be more whistleblowers out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of them don't want to talk.
Well, they're scared of what will happen to them. That's what's happening with these Hollywood people. All these actors that are bound by the covenant of silence to not disclose the whole inner workings of how they got to their level of money and fame and all that, because they will be threatened. Their lives are at stake. Their families' lives are at stake. So they just remain closed to it, and they just participate in all of these activities, these ritual sacrifices, all this stuff. It's sick. But what's interesting is that one Madonna song keeps going through my mind sometimes in the morning. Hope I live to tell the secret that I have learned. It's an old 80s song where she's singing about, I think it was when she was with Sean Penn, and she's like, hope I live to tell the secret I have learned. Till then, it will burn inside of me. And then I think about the words, the lyrics of that song. I'm like, yeah, she knows a lot, because she's one of the high witches of the coven or something. I don't know if it's Eastern Star or whatever it is, but she's definitely, one of the upper echelons of them.
Yeah, they got their societies.
Yeah, I mean, I think about all these people. Well, what have they had to go through to get to where they are? And you can absolutely see the indoctrination that it is, with like Taylor Swift, and how innocent she was, and now how dark she is. And it's like, what in the world? I guess they just get threatened, by duress. Once they sign that contract, they get threatened, obviously, and then held accountable. Like, I can't even imagine. It's so dark. I'm like, let me just keep going towards the light. And hopefully someday more of those people who have been down those paths will come out and start talking and sharing their experience. Because I'm sure that it's not always willingly that they go down that path.
Right. And a lot of stuff, it's a good thing that a lot of us out here are seeing this stuff now, so we can be here in a place to help the other people. When they see it, they're going to be, they're going to be knocked off their feet. So they're going to need people like us there to help them.
Yes. Yeah. That's why I'm trying to demystify the occult a little bit on my channel. I want to show people the world of symbols. Jordan Maxwell was a huge aspect for me in my life. There were others too. Mark Passio, I listened to him some, but now I listened to him more recently, and he's so angry. Some of these people just hold so much anger, and I can't listen anymore. Like, if somebody gets too angry, like, I had listened to Alex Jones in the beginning, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but he's just so angry all the time. I can't listen to that. It's just, it makes you kind of like, I feel dirty. I'm going to take a shower with all that anger. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. I
But
saw him once and I could have interviewed him, but I didn't want to because I'm a
yeah,
journalist, so that's what I do.
yeah. I mean, I think it's great that the individuals are doing the journalism now, and we need to promote that as much as possible. I'm just here to share in little droplets of information, of things that I've found. Because I know I don't claim to be a guru or a saint or a specialist or anything. I've just found some interesting things, and I want to like impart that on others. So if anything sparks their interest, maybe they'll go out and discover some information about it, because I'm not the foremost authority on anything, as Jordan Maxwell would say. I love that, because I'm like, that is absolutely how I feel.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
tell
trying to impress anybody.
yeah, I tell people to be their own guru. And do you know where Jordan is now?
I don't know. Have you
Yeah,
have
I've
you
seen him. I was gonna tell you. He lives in Palm Springs next to Leo Zagami.
next to where?
Leo Zagami.
Oh,
So
okay.
so if you want to get in touch with Jordan, go through Leo. Leo Zagami. He's been on Rex's show. Have you seen him? No?
Now I know. Yes, I had. Leo's a, he's a so but I would love to talk to them actually.
He's Jordan's neighbor,
With
so
Jordan as well. Okay.
because he goes to visit him, and I don't know if Jordan is really all that well with it now. So I
Yeah,
saw
I mean,
him.
and then
Huh?
he's he's getting older, he's getting up in years, and I don't know if he's even doing interviews anymore. But on his website, did you do a Jordan Maxwell interview at all?
No, no. I just saw him a couple months ago on
Because on
Leo
site it says,
Zagami's show.
well, on his website, it says that if you want to have an interview, $100. So I reached out, hey, I'd like to know more about your whole interview process and blah, blah, blah. Are you available? Because I just wanted to kind of set it up before I set the payment. Because I'm more than happy to give him $200, but I can't get a response. And I want to make sure that, the money goes where it's supposed to. I mean, there needs to be some sort of communication, I thought, beforehand. So I'm kind of confused with all that. And obviously I'm hesitant to send money, because if I don't get the interview, I'm out $200, or I guess I could, PayPal it back to myself or whatever. But I just wanted to make some sort of connection and then be like, okay, let's definitely make this happen, and boom, send the money, because I would be more than happy.
I would reach out to Leo because he will actually talk to you. I've spoken to him. You can get him easily. You can get him right through Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Okay. Well, I will look that up, because I would love to talk to him.
Do you know how to spell his last name? It's Zagami.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was listening to him just the other day, like 2 days ago or something.
Yep.
But
he goes live every Saturday. I go in on his shows once in a while.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
Because he's so interesting. I asked him, what is the biggest secret that is going to come out of the Vatican basement? And he said, nothing really, not a thing. He said, the biggest secret is that they've been actually working with off-world entities hand in hand. He said, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. I mean, where did the reptilians come? Did the reptilians come from Saturn? I mean, because I know that supposedly in certain circles, they'll tell you that reptilians, some faction of them actually were here before we were ever brought here. And that comes from, I guess, I don't know if it's David Icke, but it's some other people talk about how they were indigenous to Earth, and then we were brought here and we established this as our place. But they're like, no, this is our place. And it's like the 3-foot tall ones that are actually indigenous. But then you got some crazy tales like that sound like the chupacabra um, where it's a 3-foot reptoid type of thing that has the chocolate chip on the head with the proboscis that comes out and goes into the eye. And then they showed all those people, with the left eye punch or whatever it was. I'm like, what in the world? They're saying that was when they got inserted. They got the jab with the eye, and that eye of Horus in Egypt, the one with the eye and then it has the little design, that is actually representative of those types of reptilians. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's strange.
Like, it gets weird, but I'm kind of like, well, maybe. And then, of course, there's tales about the dog man, and cynocephalus. And they actually have old photos of these things, like drawings and technical drawings. And you hear about how Napoleon, during his days, that there were actually these cynocephali or whatever, the dog-headed people, and that they speak in like garbles and grumbles, I'm like, okay, well, maybe. I don't know. I've never seen one except in my vision of Anubis, like in a past life vision thing. I don't know. I just think there's weird stuff, and I believe anything's possible. Like, our mind creates our reality, so why can't it be? People see all kinds of interesting things in the astral plane. Why can't it exist? If we can think it, it's out here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just like making tulpas and weird stuff.
Mm-hmm. I do water
Have you ever
prayers.
made a tulpa?
No, what is a tulpa? What's a tulpa?
Oh, so the tulpas, they make them up in Nepal, the monks. There was a woman who talked about her journey of making a tulpa. Now, I can't remember if she was in South America, though. That was interesting because she was on a trek with a group, and they were teaching her how to make a tulpa, or she was learning how to make tulpas. A tulpa is honestly kind of like a golem in a way, but it's a thought form entity that you create with your mind, and you envision this thing and you bring it to life with just your thoughts. So she made this tulpa. They don't speak or anything, but they'll just follow you around. It looks just like a person. According to this woman who said that she made this tulpa based on what her teachings were, she made this tulpa, and this entity followed her around. Looked, by all intents and purposes, like a human, with clothes and all that. But it followed her around, didn't speak. But she said the thing was, she didn't know how to get rid of it. She's like, she was never taught how to get rid of it. But after some time, of several days or weeks, she eventually got rid of it, and it disappeared. So, this is the stuff. We can do this. In the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, it talks about this. It talks about how on the higher planes of consciousness, people were creating cities of rose and gold with their minds. Their minds, just thinking it into existence, and then it comes. Because the ether that's out here that we're connected to it has the ability to create matter. But because we have been in lower states of consciousness and are not aware how to operate the facilities of our mind, and our DNA was downgraded and all this other stuff, we don't have the capability right now. Well, I don't know if we need to activate our DNA or just simply learn how to do thought control to actually manage it, manipulate it just like it needs to be, because apparently it's malleable. The ether is malleable, and we breathe it in. So we consist of the 5 elements: the prana, which is the ether, and the fire, air, earth, water. And we can affect everything out here. If it's a hologram, why not? That makes us divine. But most people don't find it in themselves to be divine.
No, they don't. I do water prayers, and last summer I did a special water prayer down by Lake Erie. And then after the water prayer, I put all my waters into the prayer, then I poured back into the water I got it from. And then I said, well, let me know if there's any important stone tools on this beach. And I turn around in 2 minutes, I found 2 stone tools.
Hmm.
I've never found one in my entire life before. And it happened like this. And then on the way out, I was on my kayak. I got a picture of a deer. And it answered an age-old question of mine, if deer ever come to Lake Erie. And apparently they do.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they would, you know.
Yeah. So it was a real special day. I still find it unbelievable that it happened, you know. We can manifest these things though.
Oh yeah, no, no, I mean I've proven too many things to myself. I just go out here and use myself as the greatest experiment. You know, with the crystals, you can absolutely amplify your thoughts up into the clouds to clear the clouds from their space. You know, you can make a hole in the clouds just by your mind and using the crystal, and then you can make chemtrails disappear. You know, like I said, we have the elemental forces inside of us. And this is the Harry Potter world, but they didn't want us to know this stuff. They wanted to keep us suppressed and keep us controlled for the rest of our existence, and then get us into the Borg where they can control us absolutely. And that's what they're failing at the Borg right now. I mean, they got everybody with the injections and stuff. The Borg is going to fail and collapse because we're getting help. We're getting help from higher consciousness beings right now. And we just don't know about them, but they're on the other side of the ice wall. And they're also underground, some of them. So I can't wait. You know, I hope I live to see the day where that moment comes where it's like, we're here, you know, just like during Admiral Byrd's experience where he met them over in their own existence. You know, what a beautiful thing to be like, we're here to help you remember who you are. Mm-hmm. And to bring your history back, because they're holding all the knowledge, waiting for us to be able to accept them. We have to be in our consciousness to where we're not fighting anymore and we accept each other. That's the only time they're going to come forward. And it's really sad that, you know, we're in this state where everybody's, you know, against everybody else, all by design.
Yeah. But I have one of his books. I should read it. Little America, Richard Byrd.
Oh, Richard. Yeah. Yeah.
I should read that.
Yeah. You know, you should. I mean, it's just profound. All of these things that it has not been in the reach. Well, it's been in reach, but most people don't follow those trails. They're like, oh, that's nonsense. Let me go watch Kardashians. That's the nonsense that people are ingesting. You know, what are you feeding your mind? Are you feeding it knowledge or some, you know, amazing possibilities? Or is it just something that is never going to benefit you in any way? I don't know. It feeds the ego, I guess, watching stuff like that. Oh, look, I want to be like her. Like, oh, wow. It's sad. When people don't want real knowledge, it saddens me.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things that are so great out there. I mean, just tuning into a TV is just senseless.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not just the TV, but all the social media's got them like it has the consciousness captured. It's captivated because it's part of Hollywood, you know, Hollywood, the magic wand that controls and manipulates the minds of people. I hope we can hurry up and get through more of this great awakening before this metaverse thing comes about and really does a number on people. Mm-hmm. The commercials they have are creepy. You know, I'm like, that is some creepy cartoon commercial stuff with the lion. I mean, not the lion, but the tiger, and then they're like moving their heads and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't look all that fun to me. I don't know. That's just weird.
It's like Farm Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know about some of this stuff. I tell you, I mean, I just can't believe people are into this. I like TikTok. I'm like, I can't even. I won't even download that. I'm like, what is this mess? What is this TikTok? You just disappeared into the rock in the background.
Did I? I'm here.
Abducted
I'm too far away from my computer, I guess.
by aliens. That's funny.
You never know. They got my frequency, apparently.
I know, right?
We're nothing but a
I
giant
love
antenna. So go ahead.
I love some of the features on these things. You know, this is my favorite one right here. Let me give one. Here we go. Look. Ooh, look, it's a portal. It's a portal at the beach. Look, I'm going in. That's funny.
Oh, that's funny.
That's weird how it like follows my head. That's weird. I guess it thinks that it's part of my head. Look. Yeah, some of this stuff is fun.
I can't wait for the quantum technology, the Tesla technology. That's what I'm waiting for.
Oh, listen, you know, I can't wait until we have the jump room doors and stuff where we can go from I want to go see the world, you know, and I'm just like, please. I was supposed to go to Egypt in 2020. In February 2020, I was like, you know what? I want to go to Egypt for my birthday. My birthday's in January, but I was like, I'm going to go in February. No, I got on a stupid show, you know. I was like, oh, I got asked to manage the show, you know, like in the paint department. They were like, oh, you want to be a scenic? I was like, yeah, I'll be a scenic. I thought I was going to be working under somebody, and then they're like, oh no, you're the boss. I was like, what? Show up for work, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. I had been that before, but I was just like, you have to jump through a lot of hoops when you're one of the department heads, you know. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. And it was fun. It ended up being only 6 weeks. It was fun because I got to hire people that were fun and good and all this. It was a blast. But I missed my Egypt trip because in March is when they shut it down. You know, they shut down everything. And I was like, I can't even go to the Great Pyramid. I'm like, come on. And I won't go. I won't go anywhere until they stop this nonsense, collecting DNA and all this stuff. When that stops, I'll go on my vacation. But I'm not going to do all that.
Well, I can give you some hope because I heard of you know, the big rally we've heard about in Ottawa that happened for 3 weeks. Well, somebody that covered that the whole time came down from Canada into America, and now they're covering the thing happened in America. So there's some hope for you, Ellen, that you will be able to travel, because he said he came across the border with no issues at all. They didn't even make him do one of those tests.
Wow.
And they said, have a nice day.
Wow. Well, you know, here's the thing. Like, I get the Travel Zoo updates for different discount travel vacation packages and all this. In their disclaimer, they say for every vacation, you will have to have a test before you come back to the United States. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Click, delete, delete. Like, I just delete them. They come every week. And I'm like, I love these places. I want to go see some stuff, but delete. I don't know. I won't play that New World Order game. No. No Borg for me. I'm opting out of the Borg, I should say, except for they're spraying us over the head, and stuff. And it's in the food too. So I don't have my magnet here. What you can do, if you have a neodymium magnet, you can, like stick it here, stick it in your chest area, whatever. And it sticks. And I'm like, okay. Because I saw this one video where this woman was doing sticking forks and all kinds of stuff. And she said, everybody. Yeah, I'm like, oh, well, they weren't able to collect my during this time, even though, there's other ways that they've. So I'm just like, why? I don't want to be part of the quantum system, the quantum computer, and all that junk.
Well, I think the quantum
Save.
system's going to save us from the thing we're in now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure it's going to be cryptocurrency though, because
No,
that is
no.
still can be manipulated,
I've heard bad things about crypto.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about crypto at all, but I really think we're coming out of this, and the bad part's going to be when everyone finds out that everything we know is true, because they're going to be forced to look at it, whether they want to or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I know.
So I think that's coming sometime this month.
Well, what's interesting? Like, even though people have been like, no, 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 I don't believe that, or I don't want to hear that, or whatever, the fact that they've heard it, even in a small aspect, they'll be like, now they got to start thinking about it, and they're going to have to digest it. And, I try to talk to people about what's truly going on, the truth about the human trafficking and all this. People are like, oh, I don't want to know anything about that. No. I'm like, look, it's coming. It's coming. But here's a story about that. So last year, I was here in my studio, and it was during the summer months. I think it might have been July or something. I heard two loud booms that shook the windows of my studio. There was one, it was like an explosion, and I'm like, oh my, I'm like, what in the world was that? Why? I'm like, there's no quarry near here. And then, another one happened, and I was like, oh my, what is that? 2 days later, I watched a video where this person was saying they're collapsing the tunnels between Macon and Atlanta. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I never really thought about it, because I've heard about some of the tunnels that are beneath Macon, from the Hay House and all this. And I was like, wow, I never really thought about it being so close to home, but yeah, I guess so. Well, then later in the week, I got affirmation. I had gone to my mom's house. She lives over in Eatonton at a lake, but I took her to lunch in Milledgeville at Longhorn. So we're in Longhorn, and we're like about to order, and these 5 Marines come in, and they sit right at the table next to us. And I was like, okay, I keep looking over, because I'm like, should I say something? I'm like, I'm like, there's no Marine base near Milledgeville. So I was just going, okay, those are Marines. Why are they here? Like, okay, I'm just going to ask them. So I said, hey guys, how y'all doing? They're like, oh yeah, good. I was like, are y'all just traveling through? And they're like, sort of. I was like, are y'all here for the bunker busting? And the leader was like, and he puts his a menu up in his face. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my Lord, if that wasn't affirmation of what's really going on. It was incredible, because I guess some higher source wanted me to know this information, to have that experience with the booms, and then come across the video, and then have them sit right next to my table. I'm like, this is something else.
That's amazing.
I guess somehow yeah. I mean, truth. Because I look up at the stars at night, and I'm like, I just want to know the truth. And here it comes. Every day, something will come across my field of vision. And I'm like, okay, there's the truth of that. Now, what else? What else can we do? What else can I have? What else can I know? And now I'm focusing more on the abilities. Like, I want to know absolutely all my innate abilities. And I tell the stars this at night. I'm like, look, I want to know my innate abilities. I want them. I want them now while I can use them and learn from them and to teach others. So, there's always something that is coming to my field of view. And I'm like, okay, well, here's this. And now they're waiting for me, like my higher self or subconscious or whatever, they're waiting for me to catch up with some of the things that I have around me, because I have the Franz Barden books, which is absolutely, pure knowledge from the Vedas and everything, this Hermetics, the Kabbalah, all that stuff kind of rolled into one to impart the wisdom, but you have to work on it daily. And so I started a group, and it's called The Journey of Selfhood, where we learn Franz Barden's teachings. We're going to be self-teaching Tai Chi type of things, because you got to work with inner chi. I was telling someone today, I'm like, look at the word energy. Now look at it in inner chi, the inner chi, the inner, chi that's there. I'm like, yeah, it's the same word. See, this is how they trick us. But yeah, all these different hidden things. There's no one out here that I can find that is teaching all these modalities in one unit. So I said, you know what? We're going to do this together. I'm going to impart these concepts and this thought on you. Get the book. We'll do this together. That way we can all learn as one. So we've started. And I do have links, I have a link on my YouTube channel, but it's not undisclosed, it's not public. So I just started doing that, and we schedule Zooms where we get together and we start doing things. We made a sigil on the last one, because I'm going to show them how to manifest things by making a sigil.
Right.
And it's basically bringing the mystery schools back, because we need that kind of knowledge in certain aspects of society, for the people who are truly seeking the light and for the benefit of mankind. Because I certainly don't teach it for darkness. But it's occult knowledge, it's occult world, and there's a lot to know. Why not know it? Let's go learn it.
Yeah, I've been noticing that the more I learn, the higher my consciousness feels. I mean, it's like you take it in and you just get bigger and bigger, right?
Yes. There's no limit to it. We're growing in soul force. The more we learn, knowledge is power. It's absolutely powerful. And if only we could get people to shift in their awareness and to bring love back, because love is the absolute creator of all things.
Definitely.
Yeah. There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, love grants permission, and fear takes it away. Those are the two basic emotions.
Yeah. Well, there's just a lot to consider. And I tell you, I mean, I don't ever get tired of learning something new that's of a profound level. I'm like, wow, what about that? Let's make that. Just like, working with the goggles, or creating orgone cloud busters, or doing all these different things, because that's where you can actually start experimenting and making sigils. Making sigils is simple and kind of fun. It's kind of an artsy kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but teaching people about it is fun, because they go, oh, okay, so you do this. Well, I gave the to the attendees, I gave it to them as homework. I'm like, okay, I want you to go now and formulate your sigil based on what your intentions are, what you intend to do with it, and all that. And then we'll talk about it at the next session. So, I feel like it's like Defense Against the Dark Arts course, because I told them, I'm like, absolutely, we're going to be doing this against the dark arts. Everything that we do is in opposition of that. Yep. So, and the intentions are pure. So, We
Yeah,
need
that's
more people. We need more people to teach.
definitely, that's such a great idea you've got going there.
Yeah, well, when you have this kind of knowledge, but you can't find anyone that's teaching it, you have to become the teacher while you're the student too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that's teaching any of this stuff. And especially, I mean, in the combinations, because all of this knowledge was compartmentalized. And you're not going to find it in one place. We're talking about using pranayama, kundalini yoga, hatha yoga, sun gazing, full body earthing, and all these other things. Like it's a huge list of all these things to implement and to bring into one sphere, one realm of teaching. And we're all our own experiment. I am not the foremost authority. I am not the leader or the guru. I am someone who seeks this as a practice. And to have other people to go on your journey with you, why not? And there's a journal. You keep a journal. I said everybody should keep a journal on their findings of what they experiment with themselves, and share it with the group. So that's what we do. It's actually kind of fun.
I bet it is. That sounds like a lot of fun. Because I'm in a group that Zooms regularly, and we learn so much from each other. There's people that come and just listen. They don't have anything to say yet, and they're just so amazed at the things we talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because that's most of the people that are in my group, they're still learning. Like, they don't know a whole lot, so they don't have anything to share yet. But once you give them experiments to go out and try, and then come back and give results, then they'll be able to share what their findings are.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all just children. We're just children of light down here experimenting in this playground. It's supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be enjoying our experience down here, but it's been absolute hell with the way the things have been controlled and manipulated. So, we have to find joy in our lives. We have to manifest it, or go out and do the things that make us happy, because it's a miserable life. Otherwise, chasing a piece of paper all your life, that's not fun. And anybody out here in the world who was asked, if you didn't have to work a job at wherever you're working now, would you do it? I mean, if you could have everything provided for in your life, or manifested by you, and you never had to work your job again, would you do it? And I imagine almost 100% of the people out here in the world would say, absolutely, I'd quit my job.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't happy, but they're only feel like they're forced to work a job for the money, the finances. That's it. So if they had the concept and the notion that in order to move forward in life, to collaborate with your neighbor, so to speak, to begin turning, to other people in your society or in your community for the answers for everything that you seek, which could absolutely be done. If they were given this concept and somehow it was formulated in such a way, like we had some mastermind that said, this is what we have to do, as a community effort in everybody's communities, everybody turns to each other for trade and barter and exchange and all this stuff. Would it be possible? Sure. If we could get the farmers to produce the goods instead of giving them to corporations, and, there's a whole major shift that needs to happen. And in a huge way. I don't know how we're going to turn the ship around, but once we throw off the cabal or the evil or whatever it is, these entities, and then regain control of things, I believe we could turn the ship around really quickly, because we've already got children who are ready to be activated. As Dolores Cannon spoke about this in her books. The children are ready to be activated because they come here with all the answers to fix everything. We just have to use them and get them actively seeking their own talents within, and they'll grow up to be the answers to change everything, because we already have it. We got kids that are coming up with how to clean up the oceans, and they're kids. I'm like, wow, this is crazy, incredible. But they're ready. They're just ready. They're chomping at the bit, but they're being held back. You know, all that vaccine schedule was on purpose. You're going to have to edit that out. I just said the V word.
That's all right. I'll keep it off YouTube. I'll put
yeah,
it on Rumble.
Oh, okay. Well, then, you know, with all that schedule that they came out for children, what is it, 28 or 50? I don't even know how
70.
many.
It's 70 something.
Yes. So, I mean, that absolutely was done by design because of what was coming. The DNA that's evolving and changing. You know, we're getting more strands and all these things are happening. I'd love to know how many strands I have, but I'm not giving my DNA, you know, willingly to anyone. So, you know, I'm like, nah, that's not going to happen.
No.
I don't know. You know, yeah, there's many subjects, you know. It's crazy how we can just keep going. I mean, when I get in conversations with groups of people, I could sit there for hours.
Yes.
We sit for 5 hours at a time. So I got asked to be a guest speaker for the Connecting Consciousness group of Georgia. And I went up there and I was talking, and I must have been talking for 4.5, 5 hours. And they're like, the library is going to close soon. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I can keep going. You want to keep going? Come on.
That's the group I'm in, Connecting Consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
That's the group I'm in.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll tell you some things that I found out, but not on air. Because I've got some stuff that came across my
I already know probably.
Oh yeah, well we should talk. We should talk like when we're done recording here.
Yeah,
I'll
when I stop. Yeah, okay. I already know a lot myself though. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you know, you probably don't. I mean, obviously you don't know. I mean, so I'll wait until we're off air because I don't want to say anything on air.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, lovely group of people though. I love the people. It really got the people together, you know, and was amazing. So yeah, I do give gratitude for that. And yeah, so it's an amazing journey. Just being awake and out here in a world. I used to feel like I was alone on an island for the longest, many years. I was like, I just don't fit into this world. I was like, this world is jacked up and I don't fit in because I don't feel like I belong here at all. If I could go back to a time, like a Renaissance kind of era, I'd be so happy. And like I've always had that sadness in my soul, like I don't belong in this time frame, you know. And from one of my other hypnosis sessions, because I've had many, I had to have a bunch when I was taking these different courses. I saw myself at a time when I was an elf, kind of tall, probably, I don't know if I was 6 feet tall or 7 feet, but very pale, very frail looking, pale skin. I mean, like white, but purple eyes. And I was like, wow, my eyes are like jewels. And I felt, you know, a sense of longing to be in that time. But when I came out of the hypnosis, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, is that a thing? Do people have purple eyes? I looked it up and it is the rarest eye color there is. And I was like, what? purple. Elizabeth Taylor had purple eyes. I was like, what? I don't know. I was like, okay, where do purple eyes come from? Because I was an elf. And when I'm thinking about these Norse realms, there is a realm, and I don't remember the name of it, the term that they use, but it is a realm of what they call light elves. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I was in that realm. I don't know. I need to have another session based on those memories and see where it goes, because where does the mind come up with this stuff, for one thing? That's why I'm like, okay, what is there? What is it to this memory that's coming forward now? I was in some other existence and I don't know where that is, but the purple eyes were just beautiful. I was like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. And so I went online looking for purple eyes. And of course, they have a lot of Photoshop images of purple eyes. And some of them were like, oh my gosh, that's what it looks like. I was like, whoa, this is blowing me away.
Wow.
That's why all of this hypnosis stuff, I wish more people would go and try it in different places. I mean, I'm not trying to advertise for myself, but I know how it's helped me evolve with how to access certain things within myself. So it's kind of like a tool. And if you can kind of feel that and replicate that feeling of what it's like to be in that state of awareness, and using, like I said, I use the musical frequency of sound, which the meditation radio has sounds of waves crashing or nature blended with just tonal notes and things. And it puts me in a higher state of consciousness. And I can tap in instantly. It's like I'm already just primed and ready to connect to something higher. And it's fascinating. The mind is a fascinating place. And I never get tired of learning more about it.
Yeah, same here. Same here. How long did you want to go? Did you have any final words on? We've been going over 2 hours.
Oh, I know. See, I know. Listen, I don't even look at the clock a lot of times because I can just keep going. But yeah, no, I mean, we can wrap it up and then we can talk about some things off air. Just share some notes. Because yeah, I know it's been 2.5 hours. This is what happened with me and Rex. Like I was just going, and he's like, I got another interview. I was like, oh, okay, we can slow it down now.
I'll keep going, but 2 hours is usually about time.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, we can always get on again at another time too, and catch up on things. But yeah, we can just go ahead and wrap it up and.
Okay. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. This has been Alan King, and we were just talking about basic stuff. So we'll see you guys on the next show. Bye-bye. We love you all.